I loved Project Hail Mary. Peak cinema. And
Oh my.
Ryan Gosling has done it again. The man had a great on-screen chemistry first with a stone, and now with a rock. And maybe eventually with the rock himself. But by the time the movie ended, I wasn't thinking about how dreamy Ryan Gosling was in this movie. I was thinking about a conversation I had with a friend back in January. I told her I wanted to get back into making content, and that this time I wanted to do it differently. Because, I used to be something of a star myself before, but sadly I stopped. Now, of course, my friend, she cheered me on, she believed in me. I eventually pitched her the idea for a video, and she said, "That is amazing, we should actually go for it." But I never did. We are now at the beginning of May, and this is the first video I am making. I am somehow embarrassed. But to be honest, I'm also scared to put myself out there again. Because I always keep imagining the worst possible outcome. The judgments, the cringe, the silence. It is like there is a story waiting to be written, and I am already picturing the ending before the first line gets typed. And here is another thing I want to be honest about. My fear isn't really about starting. It is about starting again. And the part today that paralyzes me the most isn't the work. It is the thought of having to go through that whole thing one more time. Is it gonna work or is it not? And weirdly going through this paralysis every single day. I kept thinking about this movie long after it ended. Well, part of it is just how the story is told. The film moves between two timelines. In the present, Ryland Grace is alone in space, solving problems, surviving moment to moment, and in the past, in flashbacks, we slowly start to grasp who he was before. The temporary memory loss is the engine. He doesn't know who he is, so we don't either. Not at first. We get him in pieces. A flashback here, a piece of his life he didn't ask to remember, and by the time he meets Rocky, as more and more of his memory comes back, every flashback we'd seen up to that point start to land differently. Because the movie is showing us that you cannot understand who Ryland Grace is in the present without understanding what he buried in the past. And once I saw the whole picture, I felt called out.
Name. Ryland Grace. I just woke up from a coma.
Because, first of all, the movie opens with Ryland Grace waking up in space, with no memory of who he is or why he's there, and his first instinct isn't to panic, it isn't to freeze. It is to solve problems and figure out what he's doing in space. Watching him, I had to be real with myself. If I woke up in space like that, I would absolutely freak out. I will personally just wait for a miracle, or more realistically and sadly, I would just die. And so I had to figure out how was he capable of the entire journey? And the answer lies in who he was before he lost his memory. Well, you can say it is rock, or you could say it is just the amnesia doing the work. But I think it goes a little way deeper than that.
I'm not an astronaut. I put the not in astronaut. I've never done anything. I've never done a.
Before Ryland Grace was a middle school science teacher. He was a scientist with a bold and fashionable idea about extraterrestrial life. Well, he was wrong about the specifics, but the bigger claim was brave. He put himself fully out there, and the world laughed at him. His funding got cut. His career ended. But here's the thing. The tragedy isn't that he was mocked. Well, it is actually tragic to be mocked. But the real tragedy is that he agreed with them. He looked at what the world said about him and he accepted that as the final truth about himself. And so, he built a safer life, a classroom, a life that worked as a permanent shield against a question he never wanted to face again. He became afraid and he decided to vanish into safety. And that right there is the fear of judgment and failure quietly moving into his life and taking over.
I don't even care. So.
I think you do care. You're just running away because you're scared.
No, I'm not.
And the fear of judgment or the fear of failure doesn't always scream at you. It whispers, and usually it whispers in your own voice. It kills you slowly by making you overthink until standing still starts to feel like the only logical move. And we see this stillness everywhere, especially in the digital graveyard of self-help forums. It is always sadly the same story. I was really good at something once, something happened, I never tried again. That fear creeps in so quietly. A wrong answer in class that made the whole room laugh. A piece of work dismissed in 30 seconds. A moment so small, the other person forgot about it by Tuesday. And yet, we carry this with us like it's happened this morning. And since I like to link stuff, Think about Whiplash, Damien Chazelle's 2014 film, about a young drummer pushed to his breaking point by an abusive teacher.
Not quite my tempo.
And spoilers ahead if you did not watch the movie. In the final scene, Andrew Neiman gets humiliated in front of the biggest audience of his career. Now, of course, he walks off the stage sobbing and broken, and then, and this was the turning point of the movie, he comes back. Not because the fear was gone, but because he decided Fletcher wasn't going to be the one who told him who he was. So he sat back down and he played Caravan. And he earned the one thing he'd been chasing the entire movie, Fletcher's approval. Meanwhile, Ryland Grace, well, he chose to stay off the stage. And for years, the difference between these two isn't talent. It is the refusal to let someone else's verdict become your internal monologue. I want you to also think about Frank Herbert's Dune. There is a sisterhood called the Bene Gesserit. They have a kind of a mantra they recite when they are afraid. It is called the Litany Against Fear. And the line everybody remembers is, "Fear is the mind killer." And the part that goes deeper is what comes after. They don't say, "I will defeat fear." They don't say, "I will conquer my fear." They say, "I will permit fear to pass through me." Permit it, not remove it. Not conquer it. Because fear itself doesn't destroy you. Deciding that fear is the answer, that is what keeps you frozen in the exact situations that matter the most.
Fear's the mind killer.
And honestly, the most honest portrait of this I have ever seen is Usopp from One Piece. Usopp is objectively terrified all the time. He shakes, he cries, he literally invents fake illnesses just to get out of dangerous situations with his own crew. But somewhere along the way, he learned something. Fear isn't a wall. Fear is just a feeling you have to shake off. So every time he doubted himself, he went anyway. And that is the attitude Ryland Grace did not have before the mission. Ryland Grace gets presented as a coward in the film, but he is not. Not really. Getting on a ship after watching our launch explode is traumatizing. That fear is valid. But underneath it, there was something older. He was terrified of being dismissed and wrong again.
No one in your field wants anything to do with you because you refuse to back down from a very unpopular view, and I can give you a chance to prove them all wrong.
And then, luckily, Eva Stratt walks in, and she doesn't give him a choice. He said no to her multiple times, and she sent him anyway. She believed in him enough to not let him hide. She gave him no choice but to try. The door he had been avoiding for years, well, it got opened from the outside. And what happens when he went for it? Well, he discovers that the scientific community that laughed at him was wrong. The science was right, and he was capable all along. He just needed the exit block, so he couldn't keep retreating. And this is where the amnesia does something more precise than bravery ever could. Because bravery is a skill. You build it by facing scary things over and over. And the perfect example of this is the season finale of season 7 of Rick and Morty.
It really is fine. Huh. You do seem a little less burdened.
And in this case, the amnesia skipped the line. It stripped away the overthinking. It erased every negative argument he had ever collected against himself. It liberated him. Without that weight, he woke up with a problem and he just solved it. Because without the shame, he could finally feel what was underneath it. He was brave all along. The fear of judgment and the fear of failure had no ammo left to paralyze him. He was capable of everything because for the first time, first through force, then through the temporary mercy of forgetting, the fear wasn't there to stop him anymore.
You are very brave.
And eventually, the universe itself gives Ryland Grace the ultimate win. He meets Rocky, an alien, a whole intelligent species from a planet out there, on a world Earth scientists would have said couldn't hold life. Now yes, we get it. Ryland Grace didn't really have someone to fight for until he met Rocky. That Rocky is what unlocked him, that without a friend he would have stayed broken. But for me that was never really the point of the story. This was always a story about someone who couldn't get through their fear. A man so afraid of being judged and wrong again that he chose to stop his life rather than walk through the fear anyway. The amnesia didn't give him courage. It removed the shame, and what was left when the shame was gone was someone who had been capable all along.
But funny thing about hiding, you're even hidden from yourself.
Now, before I end this video, I want to leave you with one thing. The most expensive thing you can do today is spend years protecting yourself from an answer you never actually looked for. Maybe you try and it works. Maybe you try and it doesn't. And you discover you actually want something else entirely. Something you could never have seen from where you were standing. Either way, you get your answer. Either way, you stop building your life around a lie that was never accurate. The fear is real. The paralysis is real. It is not going away. So feel it and go anyway. That is all. Feel it and go.